Had trouble there hitting the right button. You know, that's what happens when you go away for a week. You leave for a week and then you come back and you're like, which buttons do I press? Oh, yeah. What's up? Man, what an exciting week I had not doing the show, but now I'm back and ready to go. And I promise not everything I say will rhyme. Had trouble there hitting the right button. You know, that's what happens when you go away for a week. What am I? You leave for a week and then you come back and you're like, which button? See, I told you I had trouble with the buttons. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Hang on, I want to make sure. You know what? I think I may have to. We may not have our Rumble audience yet. I need to make sure that I do something here that I may have forgotten to do. Let me just double check because it doesn't look like Rumble has joined us yet, and I think that could be my fault. So you typically wait. Are we streaming? Maybe we are streaming. Typically, typically what happens is when I go away for a week, I come back and it takes me, oh no, we're live on Rumble. Yay, fantastic. Okay, great. Thank God I didn't. Like I said, it takes me. I was all in the Paris state of mind. But we'll get back. Now we're back into the flow of things. We got everything. Look, we're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on the X, we're everywhere. And for those of you that missed the big announcement earlier today, don't worry. I'll play it for you again here in just a minute. It was very, 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 very exciting. We've had an amazing response too. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, you will in just a minute. But first, let me just share with you something I'm really excited about, something I got myself in Paris. And a lot of people were like, why did you go to Paris? That's like, why'd you go to Europe? It's a horrible, there's still nice places in Paris. And this is something we promised the kids years ago. When my son graduated high school, my wife said, you can go anywhere. We'll take you on a trip somewhere. And little did I know that I would be, self-employed at the time. But it doesn't matter. Promise is a promise. And he said, I'd like to go to France. So we went to Paris and we ate a lot of baguettes and we drank a lot of coffee. And man, I'll be honest, the food there was just incredible. And we saw some great sights. But look what I got. This is amazing. This is my favorite thing. This is what I got for myself. The ladies went shopping. They got some high fashion stuff, some jewelry. My son got some cool stuff as well. I got a pen that looks like a baguette. This is look at this. I haven't even used it yet, but it's a pen. It's like a regular pen, but instead when you put the little, it looks like a French baguette, a crispy loaf of French bread. And this is what I got myself. I don't care. I don't even care if it writes well. I'm just thrilled that I got the baguette. I also had a lot of, here's a pro tip, by the way. A lot of people, when they travel abroad to like Italy or France or one of those places that's known for wine, they think they need to order expensive wine. No, even the cheap wine in France is good because they make it right there. It's really, I had a lot of it. By the way, while I was in France. Anyway, I'm back now and I apologize to everybody who was disoriented and lost last week. I know I got a lot of comments, a lot of tweets, a lot of emails saying you can never go on vacation again. I don't know if that's going to, I'm not going to be going on vacation every single week. I'm not a member of Congress yet. I'm not going to take a week off every month, but there are times when I need to, step away. And I tried to get somebody to fill in for me, but that didn't work out the way that we thought it was going to do, that we thought it was going to be. So, it doesn't matter. We're back now and we are fired up and we are ready to go. It was a crazy week to leave. I'll be honest with you. I was not doing shows when Elon Musk and Donald Trump came to blows. I was not doing any, I was barely tweeting. I got a couple tweets in there, but man, it always happens. Whenever I go away for a week, there's some big drama, some big bombshell, something just explodes, boom, right in my face. And this time it happened to be Elon and Donald Trump, getting into a spat, if you will. As AOC said, the girls were fighting, but we'll see. I think at the end of the day, all's going to turn out pretty well. And I think that the big, beautiful bill, I've been doing a lot of studying about that because now that I've made my big announcement, now that it may one day be my job to figure out what we're spending all this money on, or at least part of me will be figuring out what we're spending all this money on. Now that that's happening, I think that I like to pay attention to it. I like to really put in some of the legwork, and I'm starting to see both sides of this issue for sure. And I've collected a lot of audio from both sides of the issue so we can go through it together. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to LA burning and the Democrats blaming it on Donald Trump, what's the weirdest thing too? First, they say, this is the weirdest thing too, they can't figure out what their game plan is. Half the Democrats are saying these riots are Donald Trump's fault. If Donald Trump didn't send in ICE agents, we wouldn't have it. This is all Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump is exacerbating the situation. Half of the people are saying that. The other half are saying, wait a minute, there's no riots. This is all peaceful. They can't seem to figure out what narrative they want to go with. They either want to go with this is all peaceful or it's horrible and it's Donald Trump's fault. They can't have it both ways, but they're the Democrats. And like I said, they're a little disorganized. They're a little disorganized. And we should probably, why don't we start with, well, yeah, okay, you know what? Why don't we start with the big announcement? I posted a video earlier today, and if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, have no fear because I'm going to play it for you right now. This is something that we've been talking about and teasing and investigating and doing legwork on and trying to figure out the best route possible and if it's even possible and whether or not we should even tackle such a feat. But yes, we've decided we are moving forward. And today, officially, I made this monumental announcement with this very professionally produced, I would say one of the best I'm going to run for Congress videos ever made. The Democrats are crazy.
Will you condone violently?
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Shut down the Senate!
And the Republicans are lazy.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore.
And nobody in Congress is actually working for you. And that's disrespectful because you hired them. They work for you.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
My name is Mark Kaye, and for the last 20 years, I've been screaming into microphones and digital cameras, foolishly thinking that my commentary would help our American leaders make better choices for their constituents. Boy, was I wrong. It seems like the louder we, the people, scream, the more we get ignored. We need somebody who can infiltrate the halls of Congress, directly deliver on our demands, and report back with true transparency every single day. It's a tough job. It's a thankless job. Mike Rowe might call it a dirty job.
This is basically a pit filled with diarrhea.
You got it.
But like every dirty job, somebody's got to do it. And so I am raising my hand to volunteer. I, Mark Kaye, am hereby running for Congress in 2026 for 3 very important reasons. Number 1, the Democrats have totally lost their minds.
We see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles.
Normal people just don't act that way in public. Come to think of it, normal people don't act that way in private either. And the Democrats are not just crazy, they're crazy dangerous. They have lowered their standards and raised their canes, literally.
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
In the past few years, they've allowed 21 million illegal immigrants to just blow past our border, enter our country, and do whatever they wanted to.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
And when President Trump started rounding up all the criminals and sending them back home, the lunatics on the left tried to stop them. They even attacked federal law enforcement agents and tried to bust into a prison. Every single day, they're threatening government agents and threatening congressional Republicans and threatening the President of the United States.
No one's intimidated by this dude. No one.
All while claiming they're doing it to, quote, protect democracy.
Oligarchy or democracy. But we cannot have both.
Plus, they're wasting your money. They're spending your tax dollars to fly down to tropical locations to sip margaritas with illegal gang members and try to bring these criminals back to the United States. They're lying to Americans and terrorizing voters with ridiculous claims like, we're all gonna die.
People will die.
Here's the "we are all going to die" act.
I mean, technically, yes, we are all going to die, but not because of anything Donald Trump's going to do.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
These people should never be allowed to control any branch of government, let alone the U.S. House of Representatives. But history tells us in the very next election, that's exactly what's going to happen. The party in the power of the presidency loses control of the House of Representatives in the midterm elections about 97% of the time. 97%. And if, God forbid, these lunatics somehow emerge with enough seats to control the House of Representatives, well, you know what happens then.
Today, I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump.
Are we sure that's not Chris Kattan?
Impeach Donald J. Trump.
If the Democrats win control of Congress, who's going to fight back? Who's going to call them out? Who's going to show up at the Capitol building every single day ready to fight so that we can save our republic? This guy? This is our current Congressman, John H. Rutherford. The H stands for humiliating. Congressman Rutherford claims to be a Republican, but he has voted with the Democrats 50% of the time. He even voted with the Democrats when they were trying to put President Donald Trump in jail.
Not a joke.
Liz Cheney has a more conservative voting record than John Rutherford. The only thing this guy fights for is the last cup of Jell-O at the congressional cafeteria. Plus, he's one of the least transparent congressmen in the entire world. He's never on TV. He's never on the radio. He's never talking about what he's doing for his constituents because, let's face it, that would be a very short conversation. In 10 years of service, this guy hasn't held a single town hall meeting. Not one.
Where's our congressman? Where's our congressman?
Earlier in the day, a staffer told First Coast News that Congressman Rutherford was in Jacksonville, but multiple members of the group were met with a locked door when they tried to speak with the congressman.
All we want to do is talk to our elected official, and he's nowhere to be found.
He's never in the office. Nobody ever sees him. He's kind of like the Joe Biden of Republicans. And he's not the only one. There are tons of Republicans just like John Rutherford in Congress right now. Which brings me to the second very important reason why I'm running for Congress in 2026. Republicans are lazy. This Republican literally fell asleep and missed one of the most important votes of the year. This Republican also fell asleep and missed one of the most important votes of the year. This Republican fell asleep during an actual vote.
Mr. Moore.
And when Republicans are awake, they're wasting your time. They're arguing over petty things like proxy votes for new moms and taking weeks off at a time just to strategize. What other job in the world allows you to take an entire week off so that you can figure out how to do the actual job? Do you want to know why President Trump is really working around the clock? Because somebody in his party has to. Since returning to office on January 20th of this year, President Donald Trump has signed 152 executive orders. Sorry, make that 153 executive orders. Do you know how many pieces of legislation Congress has sent to his desk to sign into law? 6. Heck, in the first 100 days of his administration, Joe Biden's auto pen signed at least a dozen, including the $2.3 trillion jobs bill and the $1.3 trillion COVID bill, both of which were supported by this guy right here. And look, to be fair, there's like 9 Republicans in Congress who are actually doing good stuff and fighting hard for you. But that leaves 211 who need a good swift kick in the primaries to get their butt in gear or get the heck out of Dodge. I can't get rid of them all, but I can replace this guy. Which brings me to reason number 3, the most important reason of all. You. I am running for Congress to represent you. If you live in Florida's 5th District, I'm going to be the loudest, boldest, strongest, most transparent representative the First Coast has ever seen. I will fight every single day for you, for North Florida, and for the United States of America. And unlike Casper the Friendly Ghost here, who currently represents this district, you're going to know what I'm doing at all times. Town halls, Zoom calls, podcasts, broadcasts. I'm going to be everywhere. I'm going to be in your face more than all those personal injury attorneys. And if you don't live in Florida's 5th District, I'm going to be fighting for you too. I'll be fighting every single day to get President Donald Trump's America First agenda pushed through Congress as quickly as possible. I will single-handedly restore transparency, accountability, and oversight to the entire federal government, even if it means pulling a James O'Keefe and covering my entire body with hidden cameras.
I got cameras in here, here.
Most importantly, I will make sure that the rights and freedoms given to you by God and enshrined in the Constitution by our founding fathers are protected, and that the federal government remains as small as humanly possible. But I can't get there by myself. It's going to take a coalition of combative conservatives working together to protect you, your family, your finances, and your future from the evil of the Democrats and the apathy of the Republicans. With your support, it can be done. We can save our republic. So here's the plan. Retire John Rutherford. In order to primary John Rutherford so he can retire to a beautiful oceanfront home along one of Florida's beaches, I'm going to need 2 things: votes and money. If you are a registered Republican in Florida's 5th Congressional District, you can help save the Republic by giving me your vote. I mean, money helps too. I'll totally take money, but like the vote and then whatever money you have laying around will be super helpful. On Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, you need to vote for Mark Kaye for U.S. Congress. Here, look, I made a sign so it's easy to remember. Mark Kaye for U.S. Congress. Ready? Screenshot. Remember, this isn't a general election. A primary win is our first step to sending quality Republicans back to Congress. So make sure you mark your calendar or set a reminder for Tuesday, August 18th, 2026 to vote for Mark Kaye on primary day. Hey Alexa, set a reminder for Tuesday, August 18th, 2026 to vote for Mark Kaye on primary day.
Okay, vote for Mark Kaye on primary day on August 18th, 2026 at 7 a.m.
And if you don't live in Florida's 5th District, you can still help out by donating whatever amount of money you possibly can to my campaign to save the Republic. My website is up and live right now at markkforcongress.com. And any amount of money you can give goes right to the fight. And look, I know that August 18th, 2026 seems like a long time from now, but every minute counts. We're fighting against a well-funded multimillionaire with tons of his own cash to spend. We need to act fast. We need to shake up the status quo. We need to show the elites that we are serious about bringing more conservative firebrands to Washington. That's why it's crucial that you donate whatever you can right now. I put the link to markkforcongress.com in the description of this video and in the comments to make it easy for you to find. But wait, there's more. I'll be posting new content regularly every single day on this channel, so make sure you subscribe so you can follow my journey and come along with me every step of the way. Remember, I promise transparency, and it begins right now. My name is Mark Kaye, and I'm running to represent Florida's 5th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. Because the Democrats are crazy, the Republicans are lazy, and it's up to you and me to fight, fight, fight so we can save the Republic. This message paid for and approved by Mark Kaye for Congress. That was pretty good. I was watching that again. Now, I've seen that like 19 times myself, because I shot it and edited it. But I'm going to be honest with you, I still get chills. I still get chills at how great I think we can make this country. Incidentally, people have been commenting about the website. This is the actual website. It's no joke. I had to, I got it up pretty quick. I'm a one-man show here. And one of the things I don't have are really good headshots. We spoke about this in the Kaye Club during one of our after parties. One of the things I don't have are really good headshots. So when they said throw a photo in there for a background image, I just picked the photo I created with AI of me as a congressional action figure because that was the hot thing a couple weeks ago. I don't even know. It's probably not cool now anymore. But if you go to this website, it's not. This is actually it. I know it looks low rent, but that's, hey, like I said, we are a grassroots. My God, I thought I was in LA for a minute. There's like thunder and lightning, and the way you love me is frightening. But it's but anyway, so but also I should point out that we have been getting a ton of support, not just, I don't know why that's that way, not just a ton of support via the donation website, but look at this. Jeff Tim just sent a super chat. This is interesting. I redid a little bit. When I got back, I was like, you know what? I'm going to reorganize things a little bit on my desk, and apparently I screwed up a couple of things like this. But Jeff Tim just sent us a $10 super chat that said contribution to the body armor and body camera fund. Fight, 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 Mark Kaye. Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. Let me share. That's funny you should mention that, because I got something right before I left for Paris, which I think it's going to be, oh my God, that's so weird. I just showed my campaign video and now God is angry. By the way, Jeff, thank you so much. I got these right before I left, and these are really going to come in handy. In fact, I'm planning this weekend to go to DC. I think I want to go to the parade, and these are the Meta Ray-Ban goggles with a camera in them. I don't know if you can see this, but if you're watching on the live stream, watch what happens when I hit the button. See how it starts blinking right here? That means that I'm recording you right now. I see what you're doing and I'm recording it. And it records for like 60 seconds or 3 minutes, whatever. But whatever I look at, it records. And there's audio and there's a microphone and the quality is really amazing. And so I immediately thought to myself, well, this is like some Project Veritas stuff. But the next time I go to any place where there's going to be protesters or rallies or anti-Trump things or people just acting crazy, that's gonna be great. I just throw on my goggles, hit the button, walk around, and it's gonna be truly amazing. So yeah, I'm going to be videotaping pretty much everything that I can possibly videotape. But thank you again for your early support, Jeff. Thank you to everybody who's heading to the website to make their donations. And speaking of protests. And speaking of people acting crazy, and speaking of riots, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in La La Land, in LA, Los Angeles. Look at this. These are those self-driving cars. These are all those Waymos, they call them. And for whatever reason, the weirdos are lighting on fire the Waymos. They hate the Waymos. I don't even really know why. The Waymos, if you don't know, are like, it's this company that created, like Elon, these self-driving cars. It's a taxi without any, driver. And they're all Jaguars. I don't know if that can't be cheap. But all these Waymos were lit on fire in LA, just like a parade of burning Waymos. And I have no idea why. Really not sure why they hate the Waymos, but they do. And they've been burning them. They've been burning everything in LA. Look at this. Here, they're under a bridge. There's police. And the police are like accosting somebody or keeping people from, there's some kind of explosion. And then look at this. This guy gets on a Lime scooter to ride away. This guy's got the Soviet Union flag. I don't know what that's all about. Or the, what is that? Hammer and sickle. Yeah. And then look what happens. Look what happens. This is video footage of live fireworks. I mean, seriously, we talk about fireworks. They're shooting fireworks at the police from above the overpass. They just have no problem, no care in the world, no qualm. Heavily armed police. They've got their flak jackets on. They've got their rifles. And these idiots are literally just shooting bottle rockets and Roman candles at the cop cars. And then this guy's over here. I mean, this police officer's literally pointing a gun at somebody. Like, he's ready to go, man. He's like no joke. They already shot a reporter in the leg with a rubber bullet. So I imagine what's one more person? What's one more person? Wait, where's the other LA bird? Oh, here it is. Here's the guy with the Mexican flag who is standing on top of the burning vehicle. And that is like, that's a popular thing too, is to have the Mexican flag to let everybody know I'm an illegal immigrant and he's standing on top of one of these burning Waymos. I'm not really sure what they're trying to accomplish. Are they trying to get arrested? Are they trying to make it, when you light a fire, it just draws attention to where you are, right? Like, if you're rioting or if you want to evade the police, if you're not trying to get deported, why would you light a big signal fire so that everybody in there and their mother knows exactly what? This doesn't make any sense to me. But again, neither does rioting or coming into the country illegally. The really interesting thing, though, the really fascinating thing about these riots in LA has been the split reaction to it by those on the left, by those in the Democrat Party. It's really, so Harris Faulkner had, what's his name? The British guy that looks like me, because he's bald. She had him on and they were talking about this and they said, look, the reason that this is happening in LA, the reason it happens in California is because we know they have no leadership. They have zero leadership.
Time and time again with us here on the Faulkner Focus that this sort of thing can happen because they really don't have leadership there.
100%. Instead of leadership from Gavin Newsom, Harris, we're getting lying. He's lying. He's saying that this whole situation was created, manufactured, that was his word, by President Trump. No, it was created by their extreme policies, specifically their sanctuary state policies and sanctuary city policies in LA, which meant that instead of cooperating with federal law enforcement, who are there to uphold our law, to enforce our border, and to deliver the mandate of our president, who was elected on a specific promise to deal with this situation, instead of cooperating with all of that, they stand back and they say, we're not going to help you. That's why you have to have ICE conducting these operations in this way. And then once the situation gets out of control, you see the second example of their total catastrophic failure, complete inability to handle a situation like this. No leadership, stepping back, letting the riots unfold, and then when they're out of hand and out of control, blaming someone else. If I were the governor, none of this would have happened. We would cooperate with federal law enforcement, and we would not tolerate this kind of chaos and lawlessness on the streets of California.
Yeah, that's Steve Hilton, by the way. He's running for governor. And I forgot that he used to be just a, like a correspondent. I keep running into my desk. Correspondent, but now he's a gubernatorial candidate because Gavin Newsom is term limited out, thank God, and nobody wants Kamala Harris to be governor of California. So Steve Hilton's one of the guys throwing his name in the ring. I also hear that Rick Grinnell will be running for that position as well, for governor of California. So look, we have something in common. Everybody, all the good guys are running for something. Congress, Senate. We've got Byron Donalds running for governor here in Florida. We have, we think Casey DeSantis. It's going to be, look, it's going to be a fun 2026. If you thought that 2026 was going to be boring because there's no Donald Trump presidential election, think again. We got a bunch of colorful characters who are running for all kinds of offices up and down the entire ballot. And we're going to be bringing you, now that I'm actively involved in politics as a candidate for Congress, now that I am one of the chosen few, I'm going to be paying a lot more attention. I'm going to be bringing you all the dirt. We're going to get even more political. And while I'm not going to dedicate much of this time to the campaign, because this is for news, this is for commentary, we will spend a lot of time in the after party. So if you want to join us, Katriots.com is where you go. Katriots.com. We're going to have an after party a little later on today, and I'll give you some of the dirt, and I'll show you what we've got planned for the campaign, which should be very exciting. So anyway, so Steve Hilton's like, look, this is Gavin Newsom's fault. If he complied with federal law, if he wasn't a sanctuary state, if he didn't, fight ICE, if he worked hand in hand with the federal government to keep America and Californians safe, then none of this would happen. But because he was the kind of guy who stuck his nose up at Donald Trump and hated Donald Trump and wanted to do the woke thing instead of the right thing. I mean, remember, this is a guy that allowed his city to burn. I mean, California burned to the ground. Pacific Palisades is gone, an ash heap, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of damage. Rich Californians fleeing the state because they have nowhere left to live. Every people losing their entire lives and livelihoods in one fell swoop because Gavin Newsom chose to protect the smelts instead of the constituents. Now it's happening again. He's protecting the illegal immigrants instead of the American constituents. And now he's got more fires to deal with, but he's blaming Donald Trump. He said Donald Trump manufactured the whole thing.
Causing mischief and mayhem. What's your message to those people who are out there tonight? Not the peaceful protesters that are out there protesting for the rights of immigrants, but for the people that are doing damage to buildings, to law enforcement out there.
Well, they're doing more than damage to buildings and to property. They're potentially damaging the very foundation of our republic. The democracy is in the balance. I mean, you're seeing these authoritarian tendencies now are being acted out by this administration. And we're case in point as it relates to nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, threatening now to put in Marines. So I hope these people would pause and just consider. Now, some of them, they want that kind of chaos. Some ways, they're adjacent to where Donald Trump is. But the peaceful protesters, we want to keep them safe. We want them to exercise their fundamental rights. We want to keep those that are enforcing the laws in a respectful and responsible way also safe. But Donald Trump needs to pull back. He needs to stand down. Donald Trump is inflaming these conditions. This is Donald Trump's problem right now, and if he can't solve it, we will.
So that's Gavin Newsom, who, and I don't know, he sounded like he was going to cry, or maybe he's just choking on the smoke, or who knows what. But there was another clip I forgot to pull. I'm going to pull it up here in just a minute, where Gavin Newsom dared Tom Homan. And I don't think you should ever dare Tom Homan to do anything, because Tom Homan doesn't seem like the kind of guy that, he's like, fine, whatever you want. He dared Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Let me play this one real quick.
And not in the city proper. But look, you made a point a moment ago. These images are unacceptable. These kids on the car, the folks that are taking advantage of this, these aren't peaceful protesters, a lot of these folks, a lot of great people out there doing the right thing. But you get these insurgent groups coming in, sort of these anarchists that are in there to create real problems. And they're just playing right into Donald Trump's hand. And they need to be called out. They need to be arrested. It is wrong to destroy other people's property, and it is wrong to create the conditions that only exacerbate this. But Donald Trump, at the end of the day, is the sponsor of these conditions.
Let me give you the opportunity. You mentioned that there are people out there.
Wait, hold on. Where's the? Hold on. I got the clip. Here it is. Oh, here it is. This is the one here. Let me play this for you. This is one of my favorites.
I mean, you're seeing these authoritarian tendencies now are being acted out by this administration. And we're case in point as it relates to nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, threatening now to put in Marines. So I hope these people would pause and just consider. Now, some of them, they want that kind of chaos. And I will never work for Donald Trump.
Did you mention at all to him in that phone call on Friday night the types of raids that were happening in your state?
Trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes, been here 10 up. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
The perception is
So there it is. So Tom, arrest me. Let's go. By the way, the question was about the protesters that were burning. So he goes, what's your message to the protesters who are burning things down, who are destroying these buildings and these cars? What's your message to the protesters who are attacking government buildings and government agents? What's your message to those protesters? And Gavin Newsom says, it's Donald Trump's fault. You can't bring in troops. You can't bring in Marines. Donald Trump can do whatever he wants. In fact, Donald Trump was asked about this all on the tarmac. And he said, look, we're going to send in troops. We're going to send in Marines. We're going to do whatever we need to do.
The bar for sending Marines to
the bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
It's always about law and order. That's like a no-brainer. It hasn't changed. It's always been about law and order. And Donald Trump was asked, Peter Doocy caught up with Donald Trump this morning and said, look, Gavin Newsom dared Tom Homan to arrest him. Do you think he should?
Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it?
I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing.
I would do it. Donald Trump said there's a lot of helicopter noise. I would do it. Donald Trump said, I think it'd be great. If I were Tom Homan, I would 100% arrest Gavin Newsom. I would if he stands in the way. And Tom Homan's all about it too. Tom Homan's like, I'll do whatever I need to do.
I'd love to get your response to Governor Newsom saying, essentially, that your actions here are provocative, and the quote that he used was sowing chaos.
Governor Newsom's an embarrassment for the state. He's the one that's feeding this mantra. He supports sanctuary cities. He supports sanctuary laws. If he cared about public safety in the state of California, he would not have a sanctuary for criminals, where criminals get released to the streets of this state every day because of his policy.
I'm pretty sure we figured out during the fires that Gavin Newsom didn't care about the state of California. Gavin Newsom cares about his podcast. In fact, does he still have his podcast? Has he done an episode of his podcast since the fire started burning? Is he suspending production of his podcast? Maybe he could have some of these violent rioters on his podcast and they could talk about it. Or maybe they could, who he should have is Mayor Karen Bass, who I still don't understand how all these people are in power in California. I knew California was in trouble. I knew that California was corrupt. I knew that there was a left-wing liberal cartel that ran the state, and that no matter how hard the rural Republicans tried, no matter how hard the conservatives in the state tried to break through. Now, no matter how many Larry Elders there are out there fighting for what's right, it's very, very difficult for anyone on the right to break through and get into a position of power in California. But Karen Bass is still there, and she's still blaming Donald Trump as well, even though it's her city. It's Los Angeles where all this stuff is happening.
I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, if immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now, but we do not know where and when the next raids will be. That is the concern, because people in the city have a rapid response network. If they see ICE, they go out and they protest. And so it's just a recipe for pandemonium that is completely unnecessary. Nothing was happening here. Los Angeles was peaceful before Friday.
Okay, so before Friday, so what happened was on Friday, or Friday, as she likes to say, let's dial it back to, what'd she say, to Friday? I think that's what she said. That's how she's got this weird accent.
I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, if immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night.
Okay, so if you dial it back to Friday, you'll see that we didn't have these. It was the raids. Donald Trump, because of the raids, because of the ICE agents coming in and rounding up all of the illegal, criminal, alien, thug, murderers, cartel members, drug dealers, human traffickers, gang members, because they came in and rounded up all of those people. That's why the rapid response network of protesters set themselves into action. That's why the rapid response network of protesters started to go out there and protest police and burn vehicles and do all sorts of stupid stuff. That's why it happened. It's because on Friday, you had these ICE raids. And if we dial it back to Friday and Donald Trump didn't have these ICE raids, we wouldn't have this. Okay, that's fair enough. But let's dial it back a little more, shall we? While we're dialing things back, while we're going back to the future, while we're hopping in Doc Brown's DeLorean and setting the flux capacitor for, a year ago, let's think about it this way. If we dial it back to Friday and there were no ICE raids, then there would be no violent protests. That sounds pretty reasonable. But if we dialed it back even further, and you didn't have sanctuary city laws, or you didn't have a sanctuary state, or you didn't placate these illegal immigrants, or you didn't allow these illegal immigrants to come into your city and take advantage of all your municipal ideals and municipal assets, and if you just stood up for law and order way back when, if Joe Biden hadn't opened up the border and allowed 21 million illegal immigrants to come into this country, just willy-nilly, scot-free, just to suck on the teat of the United States of America and drain us dry. If that didn't happen, then there wouldn't need to be any ICE raids, and then there wouldn't have been any protests. So really, if we dial it back again, it's Joe Biden's fault. It's Gavin Newsom's fault. It's your fault. But she doesn't like to think that, even though, get this is amazing to me, even though the majority of Americans agrees with Donald Trump's border policy and his policy of mass deportations. That's not the amazing part. I knew when 79 million or 77 million people voted for Donald Trump that they wanted him to start. They wanted Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi and everybody else to get together. Pete Hegseth, they wanted those guys. Boom. Day one, round these people up, put them on planes, send them to Seacoast, send them to El Salvador, send them to wherever they came from. Get them out of our country. And now, over 130 days later, guess what? The people still feel that way. And Karen Bass just can't believe it.
Are Democrats out of touch on this issue?
I mean, look at this. The question is, Trump administration's program to deport immigrants illegally in the U.S. Do you approve or disapprove? 54% of Americans approve. 46% disapprove. Which means a majority of Americans approve of these ICE raids. A majority of Americans approve of the planes full of illegals being sent to El Salvador. A majority of Americans approve of what Donald Trump is doing. Trump administration's program to deport immigrants illegally in U.S. 54% approve, 46% disapprove. This was from June 4th through the 6th. It's a CBS News poll. Karen Bass can't believe it. She's like, I don't know.
Well, I think if you did the polling in Los Angeles, I'm not sure it would be that way, considering we are a city of immigrants. And then people might approve that policy. But do people really approve the federal government coming in and seizing power from a state and from a city?
Okay, so what she's saying is if you took that poll in Los Angeles, it'd be different because we're a city of immigrants. What she means is illegal immigrants. See, like if you polled the illegal immigrants in LA, they would not approve of Donald Trump. Gee, you think? You really? Wow. You're telling me that the people that ICE is rounding up and sending back home, the people that the MS-13 members and the Tren de Aragua terrorists, you're telling me that if we polled those people, they would not agree with Donald Trump's ICE raids? Wow. To think, man, that is eye-opening for sure. Yeah, duh. No kidding, lady. We're polling Americans, though. We're asking Americans, we're asking American voters, when you voted for Donald Trump to conduct these ICE raids and these mass deportations, is this what you had in mind and do you approve of it? And a majority of Americans, just like a majority of Americans who voted for President Donald Trump, say, yeah, we approve. Keep it going. It's looking good so far. I'm on board. How can I help? You let me know.
So I drilled down a little further on that poll because I do not believe that Americans support the federal intervention in a city takeover or a state takeover.
I mean, apparently they do. And it could look, and it's not just the National Guard. It could be, as they said earlier, the Marines. Donald Trump said the bar for sending in the Marines is whatever I say it is. If they're not going to comply with the police, we'll send in the National Guard. If they're not going to comply with the National Guard, we'll send in the Marines. If they're not going to comply with the Marines, look, they're going to comply with the Marines. I'm just going to be honest with you. Gil Cisneros likes to blame Donald Trump too. Gil Cisneros is a representative from California that represents part of LA. I'm not sure which part, but he's loving this because he gets some TV time. Gil Cisneros only gets to go on TV when there's riots or fires in LA. So I'm pretty sure he's, like I said, he may actually be calling these people going, yo, ICE is coming here.
Look, the president is really trying to instigate a confrontation between whether it be law enforcement, the National Guard, and the citizens of Los Angeles, Southern California, to serve his purpose. And that could be, as Luce just said, to distract from this horrible economy that he has created, the tariffs plan that isn't working. I mean, he's even killing the Kennedy Center right now. But he is trying to distract us, and really he's trying to force California into to borrow a term from Game of Thrones, bend the knee to his will. And we're not going to do that. And I can tell you, right, I am so proud of our governor right now and the interview that he gave. But everything that's going on right now is of Donald Trump's creation and making. And they are literally pulling people off the street. And that's what I heard happen in my district. It's happening all over. They're not going out with search warrants. They're not going out after violent criminals like he keeps saying. They are literally pulling working people off the street and taking them into custody.
Okay, first of all, bend the knee predates Game of Thrones. That's like, that's another guy. That's another guy I'm going to have to deal with when I get to Capitol Hill. Add him to the list, Cisneros. Representative Cisneros, school this guy on English. Bend the knee predates Game of Thrones. What's his name? George, what's his name who wrote it? He didn't come up with that. That's just a common phrase. Second of all, yes, they're dragging people off the streets. That's what I heard. They're dragging people right off the streets. Correct. That's what you do with criminals. When you see a criminal on the street, you don't say, hey, where do you live? I'm going to come by your house later and arrest you. You go, there he is. And you don't even yell. You just, boom, you just haul him away. A criminal is a criminal no matter where they are. A criminal is a criminal at home, at work, in the cafeteria, at AutoZone. I don't know why I picked AutoZone I'm not saying that criminals hang out at AutoZone. I was just there the other day, so it just stuck in my mind. And on the street. So of course they're pulling people off the street. They always pull criminals off the street. If a crime happens on the street, guess what? You want the cops pulling those people off. This guy makes no sense. Also, the tariffs aren't working. The tariffs are working brilliantly. You know how many hundreds of billions of dollars we're taking in every single day because of tariffs? You know how many prices are dropping because of Donald Trump's tariffs? I have a whole bunch of clips from the smartest man in the country, Kevin Hassert, the director of the National Economic Council. This guy is telling you, he's outlining everything about tariffs, about inflation, about the big, beautiful bill, about taxes, and everything's working. No one's complaining. You can tell that nobody's really complaining, that the tariffs are working because the Democrats aren't complaining about them anymore. They're back to complaining about ICE, and they're back to complaining about this stuff. Senator Padilla is one of these are pieces, because again, when you're a Democrat, you got to take a side, right? And you got to figure out, is this a violent protest that Donald Trump is responsible for because he's a dictator and these burning cars and all this stuff all these people being dragged off the street? It's all just part of Donald Trump's plan to take over and be a king of the United States of America? Or this is no biggie. It's just a peaceful protest. Well, Senator Padilla is on the it's a peaceful protest side.
The vast majority of protesters and demonstrators are peaceful. They're passionate. When you come into a community like Los Angeles, the way that the Trump administration has, you need to expect to be countered with people who are passionate about defending fundamental rights, about standing up for due process.
Okay, interesting he should say that. He said the vast majority of these protesters in LA are peaceful. They are passionate. They are concerned about due process, and they are standing up for their rights. That is very interesting to me, because I remember on January 6th, 2021, the vast majority of protesters in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol were peaceful. They were passionate. They were concerned that they were not getting due process and that they were standing up for their rights. Why were they thrown in prison? Why were they thrown in prison for years? Why were they attacked? Why were they shot? Why is Ashley Babbitt no longer with us? Why was that an insurrection and this is a peaceful protest? This to me looks more like an insurrection than January 6th because these people are foreigners. They're illegal immigrants. This is a foreign invasion of LA. And the people put in charge of protecting Los Angelosians, the people that are put in charge of protecting LA's citizens, they're siding with the illegal immigrants. They're siding with the insurgents. Show me video of January 6th. Show me the burning cars on January 6th. Show me the not one, not two, not three, not four, but half dozen burning cars in a row on January 6th. Show me the fireworks being shot at police on January 6th, the smoke permeating from the tunnels around D.C. and the George Washington Bridge. Show me all of those images. There weren't any. People climbing on walls, waving flags, one guy with a podium, who, by the way, we follow each other on Twitter now. He's great. What's his name? On Twitter, he's not podium guy. What's the other word for podium? Oh, I keep forgetting it. It's not pedestal. Podium, pedestal. Hold on. What's the other word that I'm thinking of? I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out eventually. Somebody will post it. Somebody will post it in the chat, and I'll get it. Anyway, but follow him on Twitter because he's a hoot. But anyway, that's what you saw. You saw the guy take the horns, and you had him in the not pulpit. Maybe it is podium guy. Is it podium? Hold on. Now it's going to bother me. Podium guy. Oh, it is podium guy. No, it's not podium guy. Podium guy's a phony. Lectern. Thank you. Lectern guy. Yes, follow Lectern guy because, but make sure you're following the actual Lectern guy because I told you there's a bunch of phonies. There's like podium guy and hold on, Lectern. Let me make sure I get you the actual address. It's the Lectern guy and his sign on Twitter is @Lectern leader. So I was totally wrong and everything, but that's what I saw. Smiling, I saw cops posing for selfies with the protesters. I don't see that in LA. Yet Senator Padilla wants you to believe that these are mostly peaceful people that are passionate. Yeah, well, we can be passionate on the right too, but when we're thrown in jail without any questions asked, without any due process. When you're peaceful and passionate on the left, you have everybody racing to your aid, blaming the president of the United States and using their own money, Kamala Harris, LeBron James, to boost you out of prison so you can go right back to rioting and burning stuff. ABC News described this whole situation as, get this, people having fun watching cars burn.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
Okay, that's not AI, by the way. That was an actual reporter for some ABC News, ABC 7, downtown LA, who said he's blaming the police. So there's people lighting cars on fire. There's other people standing around peacefully watching those cars burn. The police come in, all hell breaks loose, and it's the police's fault because those people were just, peacefully watching cars burn.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers.
Hey, what do you guys want to do tonight? You want to go to the movies? I don't know, maybe bowling or Top Golf. Oh, I know. Let's go downtown and just peacefully watch cars burn until the cops show up. Sounds like a great idea. In LA, you can actually do that probably. That's probably like a weekly. You could probably do that weekly in LA because they do a lot of that. Here's Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters, I'm going to be honest with you. Maxine Waters, she just can't get her story straight from day to day. She went to, where did she go? She went to one of the prisons where somebody was held, and she was yelling and screaming at the police, and she was yelling and screaming at the police and asking if they were going to shoot her, which kudos to the police for having the wherewithal and the self-control to not shoot Maxine Waters. I don't know that and it doesn't matter here.
What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid who's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did, the governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us. This is wrong, and I hope that none of you will use those guns to shoot anybody. There's no reason to shoot anybody. Don't allow them to make your service in a service where you're killing people. Don't do it. Defy them. Don't shoot those guns for anything. Thank you. Thank you.
So that's Maxine Waters saying, don't shoot those guns. There's no reason to shoot anybody. Well, I mean, not yet. Not yet. There's always a reason down the road. But look, she's like, don't use those guns. Don't shoot anybody. No one's going to give you a read. Just go away. Just pretend the guns are empty. Again, where was that directive for Maxine Waters at the Capitol building on January 6th, right before the trigger was pulled on Ashley Babbitt? I don't remember her making pleas like that to the law enforcement agents at the Capitol. Maxine Waters was on the news. I don't know if this was later. I assume it was later. And she just couldn't. All of a sudden, she was shocked afterward.
Well, I was surprised at the way that the police chief was describing all of this. There had been no violence where anybody that was protesting hit anybody, shot anybody, threatened anybody. Nothing had happened. And so he doesn't know what to do, probably, because this is a sanctuary city and the police don't have the authority. All that he's got to do is work with the governor.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that Donald Trump made sanctuary cities illegal. I'm pretty sure there was an executive order. I'm not sure which one of the 153 that President Donald Trump has signed in the last 100 days. I'm not sure which one of those executive orders was the executive order that outlawed sanctuary cities, but I know that there was one. I know it's in there somewhere. And yet here's Maxine Waters basically going on the news saying, I know that there's an executive order against sanctuary cities, but we don't care. We are going to defy that executive order against sanctuary cities. And if we defy the order against sanctuary cities and offer sanctuary to illegal immigrants, the government has no right to come in and stop us. I guess as for an elected official, it's shocking how little she knows about how executive orders actually work. My favorite quote of the day was one from President Donald Trump that I spoke about very at length in the 47 Daily podcast today, which, by the way, is also back. It's also somebody wrote, this is kind of funny. One day what I'll do is I'll share all my comments when I'm on vacation. In fact, I'll just sit back and I'll just copy and paste the comments and post them. Somebody wrote, I can't believe that the 47 Daily isn't live this week because you're on vacation. And then that same person, like 4 hours later, wrote, oh my gosh, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic isn't on either. And I was like, well, when I go on vacation, it's, I don't just go on vacation for half the day. I go on vacation for like the whole day. But here's the other thing too. I'm going to be honest with you. I've got another vacation coming up July 4th week. I mean, it's July 4th week. Everyone's on vacation and we always go to the beach. We go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we have a family reunion because we have relatives in DC. We're in Florida. Myrtle Beach is about halfway. Plus, it's awesome, bruh. I love Myrtle Beach, bruh. Been going there for over a decade, bruh. Anyway, and I said to my wife, because we were reading these comments and we were looking at the reactions, stuff like that, and I said, I'm probably going to have to do the podcast from the beach this year. And she was like, yeah, you're 100% going to have to do the podcast from the beach this year. So I will be setting up a studio. I may be actually live on the beach. You may see the ocean behind me. You may hear the breeze or the waves, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'll do it because I love you and I don't want you to, because people got angry. And I knew if I took another week off, people would get really angry. Plus, it's July 4th, and I feel like that's a good week to celebrate a lot of things. And now we're in the middle of a campaign. And there is going to be no rest. There's going to be no stopping until August 18th, 2026. And then even then, that's just the primary. Then there's a whole general election. That's the thing. And here, look, I'll break it down for you. And you know what? In fact, I won't. I'm going to break it down for you in the after party. In the after party today, if you're a member of our Katriot Club, go to katriots.com. In the after party today, I'll break down the exact science of what's happening, the exact time frame, why I selected today to make an announcement, what's happening on August 18th, 2026, what happens after that, leading up until the election in November, and also what we're planning for August 18th this year, which is a Monday. But first, let me say thank you to Inferno Man 5874 for his $5 super chat. You go make America great. That is so nice. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, Inferno Man. I really, really appreciate that. That is very nice of you. I also have here a $50. This is amazing. A $50. Let me see if I can pull this up. Kind of. For whatever reason, I can't. It disappears. From Jagbear66, who writes, so if you ran, became elected, and let's say you then became Speaker of the House, could you be in line for president if Canada became the 51st state? You would then be born in what is the USA. Jagbear66, first of all, thank you for the very generous super chat. I appreciate that. I guess, yes, if Canada became the 51st state, then there is an argument to be made that I was indeed born in the United States of America, even though I was born a good 50 years before that 51st state became a state. But yeah, I guess the argument could be made that I was born in the U.S. and I could then be in line. However, if I were to win the primary in the general election and go on to serve the great people of the state of Florida in the 5th District for the next 2 years, or in the next Congress in 2026, and if somehow I became Speaker of the House of Representatives, I would currently, the way it is, not be in line for the president. I would be leapfrogged. Hopefully we would never need it. Hopefully Donald Trump lives a long, illustrious life well through 2028 and beyond. JD Vance, young guy, healthy guy, again, ready to jump in if he ever needs to. But if there were some reason where the Speaker of the House would have to then take the reins, it would not be me. It would be the Speaker pro tempore of the Senate, because I'm a Canadian, but not anymore. I was born in Canada, and the Constitution is very clear that in order to be president, you must be 35 years of age and a natural born citizen of the United States. And I am only one of those. And it's not the latter, but that's a great point. Thank you so much for bringing it up. And thank you to everybody for the super chats and everything else. I do want to get to the big, beautiful bill, because the big, beautiful bill is very, very important. But I did also want to share one other thing with you. And that is that right before I left for vacation, I redid my entire Dollars for Followers course, because we did it live, which was amazing. But what happened was, when we did it live, a lot of people were like, I can't come to the live Dollars for Followers. Can you do it on this day? Can you do it on that day? Can you just do it for me personally? And I was like, I can't actually, but what I can do is record it so that you can now get immediate access. And if you want to learn all my secrets and tips and tricks to building an audience and creating offers and products that audience scoops up, and how you can turn each and every one of your followers into at least $1, then go to dollarsforfollowers.com, and you can now get immediate access. You can read what all of our prior students have been doing with the information that they learned. You can learn exactly what you'll be getting from the Dollars for Followers class and workshop, the little message from all kinds of great stuff. You can see examples of the money we've been making with Dollars for Followers. And then, of course, you can enroll in the program. And as I said before, you get instant access. So there's a 100% money back guarantee. So there's really no reason not to try. I've taken away all the risk for you. Go to dollarsforfollowers.com if you're interested. Dollarsforfollowers.com. All right, let's talk BBB, Triple B, the big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill. Here's where we're at. The Senate is now arguing and debating the big, beautiful bill. And the big, beautiful bill is getting a lot of resistance in the Senate from people like Rand Paul, people like Ron Johnson, people like Well, there's other people that are giving it resistance. And Rand Paul is upset about all of the excess spending, and there's not a lot of savings as he sees it.
What I'm suggesting is that we can add some money to the border, but what they're asking for is excessive. And I'll give you an example. For the fence, they want $46.5 billion. Well, I did the math on this. The current rate, according to the Border Patrol, is $6.5 million per mile. That would be $6.5 billion for 1,000 miles. Nobody's really estimating there's more than 1,000 miles that could be fenced at this point. So that's $6.5 billion versus $46.5. Where's all the money going? I've asked the Trump administration, where's all the money going? As far as hiring new people, I would hire some new people. I would give some bonuses. I'd probably do half as much as what they're asking for because the border is largely controlled right now. And what we don't want is when we wind up looking back at this, have an army of Border Patrol agents that we have on the hook for payments and pensions and everything else. We need to do it judiciously and not in a reckless manner.
Okay, Rand Paul saying there's way too much money in here for the border. I've talked to Donald Trump. I talked to the Trump administration. I said, what's all this money for? Why do we need all these? We've got, look, we'll give some bonuses. We'll hire some more people. We'll finish the fence. I think it's a wall, but he calls it a fence. But what's all the rest of it? There's way too much money in here. We need to cut some of it out. Well, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump, who's negotiated a thing or two in his life, knew that there would be people cutting out money for the border. So he put in excess money for, that's a negotiation 101. So Rand Paul gets to go on there and say, we got to cut all this border funding. We got to cut these Border Patrol salaries. And Donald Trump's like, fine, take out a couple billion, but leave the rest of it. And he gets what he wants and needs to keep our border secure. And Rand Paul gets to say that he fought for cuts. I don't know that it's a good look that you're wanting to cut the Border Patrol. I also don't think you can have too many Border Patrol agents because, again, the Border Patrol, it needs to be a constant. It's not one of those things where, it's like insulin. If you have if you have a diabetic in your family or whatever, I had a couple of people in my family that had diabetes and they had to start taking insulin and they would feel better. And then they'd go, oh, I guess I don't need to take my insulin anymore. But that's not how it works. You stop taking your insulin, all of a sudden you're lying on the floor in a diabetic coma and we're calling the ambulance so that they can give you some insulin. Insulin is a constant, just like the Border Patrol. We don't want a reoccurrence. We don't want to be laying in a coma inundated with illegal immigrants again 20 years down the road. So boosting up the Border Patrol, I feel like is something we need to do consistently, just like we need police all the time, just like we need the military all the time, just like we need the Space Force all the time. We need these people all the time because you need ambulances and doctors all the time. It's not one of those things where let's get a whole bunch more in here and then cut them all. I think the border, if the border's not getting any smaller, neither should the Border Patrol. And thank goodness our border is not getting any smaller. Kevin Hassett was talking about the Rand Paul base. He was talking about Rand Paul, but he didn't mention Rand Paul's name when he was talking about the big, beautiful bill to, I believe it was Fox Business. I'm not really sure. And he said, look, this is exactly what's going to happen. We knew this was going to happen.
There's the stage where basically senators rightly try to adjust the bill in their favor for the thing they care most about. And there are, I think, 53 senators that are doing that respectfully for Majority Leader Thune. He's managing that along with Senator Crapo, who runs the Finance Committee. And we're certain that the Finance Committee is going to finish it up, the Senate's going to finish it up, and we're going to have a big, beautiful bill by the 4th of July. And so there'll be a lot of modification here and there, but the president's priorities are redlined in the bill. Everybody agrees to that. And when we get it, Joe, don't forget, then if it fails to pass, then what it means is we have the biggest tax hike in history, and our Council of Economic Advisors estimates that GDP would drop 4%. And, of course, you'd lose millions of jobs, so the deficit would go way up. And if we pass it, then we've done the estimate that we used last time when we said you'd get $4,000 increase in wages. It's $10,000 now. And so you got a $10,000 wage increase for the average American or a recession. That's what they're talking about in the end. And in the end, really, if they had to, Democrats would vote for it.
There's a lot of truth to this. Basically, what's happened is Donald Trump and his team and Kevin Hassett, who is an integral part of this, has come up with a bill that will save basically the economy with these tax cuts. And if it's not passed, will do detrimental harm. So you're going to get a fight from people like Rand Paul. You're going to get a fight from people like Ron Johnson. But at the end of the day, not passing this bill and not solidifying these tax cuts would be worse for the economy than anybody who's saying we're going to bankrupt the government. You're going to it's like you're going to bankrupt the government for sure if you don't pass the big beautiful bill. You may bankrupt the government if you do. If you don't. Wait, hold on. If you do pass it, you may bankrupt the government based on your numbers. If you don't pass it, you for sure will, and a lot faster. That's what I meant to say. And we know that because Russ Vought was on with Shannon Bream, and he basically said, look, the Office of Budget Management, all these numbers that are being thrown around, they're being misconstrued and misrepresented. Wouldn't you know it? People are taking the same numbers and spinning them to their own agenda.
Let's start with some of the assessments about what the big beautiful bill will do. Reuters reports this. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office on Wednesday estimated the bill will add about $2.4 trillion to the.
By the way, I'd like to just pause for a minute. Anytime an organization is listed as nonpartisan, it's the opposite of that. That means left-leaning. Nonpartisan organization equals left-leaning, just so you know.
$6.2 trillion U.S. debt pile. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget said on Wednesday that when taking interest payments into account, the bill's cost would rise to $3 trillion over a decade, or to $5 trillion if temporary tax cuts were made permanent. Are they wrong?
They are wrong, and that's because all of the watchdogs use an artificial baseline that is part of the way that Washington, D.C. does business here, in which they assume that all spending is eternal, but tax relief in 2017 was to sunset. And as a result, when you just extend tax relief, you're in a situation where it looks like this major cost. And of course, that's not a cost. If it would not to occur, it would be a major tax increase to the American people. And so when you adjust for that baseline, that big game, and this is putting aside the economic growth that we think that they also understate, when you adjust for that, it is $1.4 trillion in reduced deficits and debt. That's why this is such a paramount, fiscally responsible bill, notwithstanding the watchdogs here in town.
All right, so what they're doing is they're taking the numbers from the Office of Budget Management and they're saying, look, this is going to balloon the deficit this much, that much, the other, yada, yada, yada. And what everyone else is saying is, look, when you compile this with the entire economic policy, when you look at the big beautiful bill, when you look at the tax cuts, when you look at the tariff relief, when you look at things like Donald Trump's gold cards, when you look at the boosted economy, when you look at the reduction in expenditures because the job market is growing, when you look at, this is something else Kevin Haft said earlier. I don't know if I have it. He said something about, I don't think I have it anymore. But he said when we create more jobs and people go to work at those jobs, many of those people are going to get health insurance paid for by their employer. And when those people get employer paid for health insurance, guess what? They come off of the government plan. They come off of government health insurance. And all of that is what they're figuring in. They're saying, look, we're going to create this many jobs. That means this many people are going to come off of our health insurance plan. This many people are going to come off of Medicaid and Medicare. Then we're going to be able to save money there and that. And then Donald Trump has these Trump accounts, which he's giving to the kids. And then that eventually will subsidize the Social Security. They're figuring out the entire package. And with the entire package, they say there's going to be $8 trillion cut from the deficit. When you look at the individual pieces of the big beautiful bill, you argue, like Rand Paul does, that there are going to be massive increases to the deficit because these tax breaks are going to be crazy. And they're going to make everything balloon and skyrocket and explode. And we're all going to be, just defaulting on our debt left, right, and center. I don't know enough about the economics of this or the math of this to know which side is right, but I looked into the history of it, and the Office of Budget Management is usually not correct on these things. Every single time there's been a massive bill, a massive expenditure, a tax cut, every single time they've put forward some kind of extrapolation into the future. I mean, it's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of Al Gore and his fear-mongering about climate change, where he showed maps. But 20 years ago, he showed maps about how this very spot where I'm sitting right now was supposed to be underwater. Florida, the majority of it, the peninsula of Florida, was supposed to be underwater because of climate change, because the glaciers were going to melt or whatever, and all the water was going to come up over the blah, 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 blah. And I would be sitting here, I'd be sleeping with the fishes, basically. And if you were watching me, you'd be watching me in like an aquarium, and I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. That was Al Gore's whole thing. I kind of feel like the Office of Budget Management is the same thing. They need to, I guess you would say, justify their existence. And so they keep coming up with all of these projects and these extrapolations and these predictions that really never, ever pan out. So I don't really think there's one way to know either way. I will say this. When Donald Trump was president the first time, everything was lowered. Taxes were lower. We got tax breaks. Prices were down. Gas prices were down. There were more jobs. And it seems like we're going that way in a much faster movement. Plus, the tax breaks are really the biggest part of this whole thing. If we don't solidify the Trump tax breaks, then we are going to be in a pretty bad position. Look, there's so much going on this week with the big, beautiful bill. There's so much going on with what I'm sure will be continued riots and ICE raids and back and forth between these lunatics in California. And of course, there's so much going on with our brand new campaign that we just launched. If you haven't yet already, please swing by markkayeforcongress.com and make whatever kind of donation you can. This is not, look, I don't have PACs. I don't have like millionaire friends who are just going to buy me the election like Elon Musk. Not that he did, but he claims now he did. Oh, maybe I could become friends with Elon Musk now that he needs a friend. But anyway, I'm making all of this. This whole campaign is going to be run by small donations, $25, $50, $100, whatever you can donate. And you can do that right now at markkayeforcongress.com. And again, I know what you're thinking. It's really early. The primary's not for like a year away, but the guy we're running against has a lot more money already stored up. We need to stockpile for the winter so that when winter comes and we need to start spending this money so that we can really formulate an amazing campaign and get door knockers and get events and get advertising and get people to know what our message is and what our agenda is and how we're going to go out there and fight every single day, not just for Florida's 5th congressional district, but for the entire United States of America. When we start doing that, we're going to need some scratch in the bank account. We're going to need some cheddar in the chest. So if you can go ahead and donate now, that would be fantastic. markkayeforcongress.com. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I am going to take my brand new glasses out and, like I said, do some more. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to do. I'm going to, now that we're doing this whole congressional thing, and now that we're out of the closet and we are declared, I'm going to start doing a lot more things out in the open, and I'm going to succeed in documenting the entire process, vlog posts or just commentary or whatever. But if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, that's another great reason to subscribe, because you'll be able to follow along with, I guess, my Congress vlog, for lack of a better, I'll just keep it simple, Congress vlog 2026, and you'll be able to follow along with the whole system. It should be a lot of fun. Everything we do. Plus, you'll get to hear every single day Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, where we bring you the information you need to know about what's happening in your neck of the woods, around the country, around the globe, that's going to affect you and your family, where we entertain you and inform you and try to keep you inspired so that you know there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And right now things are glowing bright, but there are people that are trying to bring darkness back into your life, and we're going to inspire you to keep fighting them, to stop them. We're going to give you the skills and the information necessary to keep going. We want you to join us and the rest of the Catriots. And together, we will fight so that we can continue to save the Republic. All right, we got an after party coming up here in 3 minutes. After party in 3 minutes. If you're not yet a member of the Catriot Club, go to Catriots.com. You can join right now. We will be bringing you an extended Mark Kaye show in the after party right after this.